Hello. Dr. Jayesh.
Uh, Hello, ma'am. Sorry for inconvenience. Welcome all.
Hmm.
We are here again on day 4, and we are about to start our today's proceedings. Uh, in today's last lecture series, for first lecture of today, we have with us Dr. Manisha Gohel, ma'am. Ma'am is professor of Department of Community Medicine, and ma'am is having experience of 20 years. Ma'am is at Pramukh Swami Medical College, Karamsad, and her topic is pertaining to publication ethics. So I first request all of you to keep your mic silent, and now I give my opportunity to ma'am to start the proceedings. And ma'am, your slides are visible and your voice is audible, so you can start the proceeding, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jayesh. So I would like to first Dr. Chinmay Sa and his team from Bhavnagar for arranging this lecture, because when I was up here before few years in this exam, I had really faced so many problems because it is very tough to read a whole entire module at a one time and one place. So this is an opportunity to share again my knowledge about publication ethics. Now, this is a very close to our heart because publication is mandatory according to the NMC. All of you must be aware, right? And what I am going to talk, it is a almost experienced by all of us during our academic journey. So let's see what are the objectives. Uh, sorry, I am unable to change my slide. Let me see. Yes. So today at the end of this 15 minutes, all of you will be aware about what are the ethical issues related to publication. And of course, after knowing these are the issue, how we can try to avoid this ethical issues during for publication. So all of you must be aware, ethic, that is a word come from ethos, that is a character. Now, all of you know, for any character, we have some moral values, we have some self-discipline rule. Same like for publication also, if you want to if you want to publish your research work, right? You must have follow some rules and regulations. So there are three perspectives of this publication ethics. One is moral, that is, as I said, that is related to data. Second is professional, again giving credit to the colleagues or those who have contributed to the article, that is related to authorship. And third is a legal, that is a copyright issue. So we will see one by one. So before that, why we want to publish our research? Of course, first and most important, we want promotion. Everyone in academic field, if you want to promote yourself according to NMC, these are the number of publication you must have. So that is a one purpose. Second, you are whatever you have already done or outcome of your research, you want to communicate with the world. So you will be acknowledged, you will be recognized by the colleague or maybe a senior people, and you want to create a permanent record of this your contribution in your field. You may identify the research lacuna and based on your research outcome, other people may try to research something else. So these are the scope of, if you publish your research, there are many fruitful outcomes. So all of you must, because many of, especially in our country, they do a lot of work but they don't publish anything that you now it is a medical education is one more field where you, even on teaching learning methods, so many things you can do a research. And of course, publication, this ethics play an important role in producing quality research literature. So these are the, coming to the topic, these are the main 6 component. First is the ethics review. Second is fabrication and falsification. Third is authorship. Fourth is plagiarism. Fifth is ethics related to submission of article and conflict of. Sixth is the conflict of interest. Remember, I had a 4 MCQ in my exam from this topic. So try to remember. This is very simple because all of you have done research and all of you might publish. So you know which are the different problems in publication. So let's see one by one. Now, committee review. Now, most of the colleges or most of the institute, they have their own ethics committee. So all of you must be aware, whenever you want to do any research, you require this human or animal ethics committee approval as per the guidelines. So this is very mandatory. Whatever you want to do in research, but you must take first is the ethics committee approval. So if you are doing clinical trial, you have to register your clinical trial. So clinical trial, there are a lot of ethical issues, we know, but you must register your trial. Consent is a very important part of publication. You must, and data confidentiality. These are the two important aspects when you go, consider your research for publication. Coming to the data confidentiality, remember you cannot, if you are at one college and you are doing research, suppose if you are transferred to other college, you cannot share the data of previous college with that new college or new institute, especially in patient care. So remember, data confidentiality is one of the major component of this different ethical issues. So what is data fabrication and data falsification? These are the two terminology you must remember. So what is a fabrication? Means you are creating your own research result. Means the person didn't conduct any research, but he or she created the data and published it. So this is a very, very unethical. So that is known as a data fabrication. And what is a data falsification? That is you are manipulating your research methodology or some material or some equipment, or if you are manipulating the data, so that is known as a data falsification. Someone mic is kindly mute your mic. Someone is speaking in between. It is sincere request all of you to mute your mic, please.
थायराइड तो आज करा नहीं.
Huh? So someone mic is on. Dr. Suchitra is there. Can you unmute or mute yourself, Dr. Suchitra? Okay, so that is known as so when you are generating data without doing any research, that is a fabrication. And when you are manipulating the data, most of us are aware that we want significant results. So we manipulate our data to make it significant. But remember, in research, even if you are, that is not significant, that is also important research. Dr. Revati, please mute your mic. Dr. Revati, please mute your mic. Thank you. So that is also one important. It is not significant if it is your result. That is also very important. So this is one example of data fabrication. That is I asked somebody, how did you collected this data? So the person told that I took data or result from my senior's thesis. So that is known as a data this fabrication, when you have not done any research but you are creating data. And what is a data falsification? One example is like a postgraduate student comes to you. Okay, ma'am or sir, kindly have a look at my result, and can you make outcome or convert outcome in a significant way? So that is you are manipulating the data to highlight the importance of your research. So that is also not acceptable. Now this is in MCQ they ask what is the type of misconduct. So this is a extremely serious misconduct. Now there are different level of misconduct. So this is known as a extremely serious, that is a data fabrication and data falsification. Authorship, all of you know, and all of you must experience in your academic field. It is a very crucial to whom confirm authorship. When you are doing some research, you are not alone. There are many people who may contribute to your research. So before whenever you plan research, authorship criteria should be known to all author. So let's see what are the authorship criteria. First criteria is to substantial contribution to the conception or design of the project. That is the first. Then, of course, the data collection, data analysis, and implementation of project. And second is the revision of the work. So, suppose if you change your project, then person should contribute intellectually also. And third is when you prepare your manuscript, that person should also contribute in manuscript writing also. But we know at majority place, the one person who do research and publish it, there are few people will help, but that help is not a authorship. At least these three things should be done by author. In a major or minor contribution should be there. And again, there should be an agreement of integrity of research, right? If there are four authors, that four author will be responsible for the entire project, right? So that is also important. Now, there are different types of authorship issue. First, this all of you must be aware. First is the improper author, or the author, we are actually, those who have contributed, we are excluding them, and those who have contributed, those who have not contributed, we are including that. So that is a very, very common, right? Gift authorship. What is a gift authorship? Here we are gifting someone our authorship. Like senior people are there in department, you have to include the name of senior people. So that is known as a gift authorship. Ghost authorship. There are people who really contribute. Suppose you are PG student, he or she might be a contributor to your project, but because he or she is your PG student, so you don't acknowledge, or you don't give him or her a authorship. So that is a ghost authorship, where they really you should give the authorship to your PG student, but you are not giving. So now ethics related to submission, that submission of article, simultaneous, duplicate, self-citation, and predatory journals. All of you means if you are giving one article, your research article to many journals, so that is not acceptable, that is unethical. You are creating two manuscripts from same research, that is a duplicate submission or publication, that is not acceptable. Self-citation, even it is without contextual, you are citing your own work in your article again and again, so that is and predatory journals, all of you are aware. Plagiarism, all of you know, when someone idea or someone research, you are using in your article or mentioning in your article, but you are not acknowledging or not putting citation of that particular work. So that is and most common is a copy and paste. We take the word from particular article and we put in our article. So that is a copy paste, word to word copy paste. That is the most common type of plagiarism. So, but again, this plagiarism is also a serious publication misconduct. Now, remember, our institute has that is a software. So each and every institute, or there is one Ucrun software which is available free, and you can use for checking your article. At our place, it is mandatory for all postgraduate students to check his or her dissertation through this our software at university. So this is a salami publication. When one research article is published in multiple paper, means only one research is done, but you cut down your result into a small section and you publish many articles. That is known as a salami publication. That is also unethical. So how to avoid plagiarism? That is avoid copy paste. Write to your research work. Write to you should try to put your words for your research article. Acknowledge the people who have helped. Reference should be a good. So as I mentioned, you can use also the. Now this is very important. This is very common conflict of interest. If one pharmaceutical is sponsoring some project for one particular drug, then paying the clinician, there will be a bias. So such kind of interest should be declared. So that is known as a conflict of interest. Now there are many consequences of if you are doing illegal publication or unethical publication. So summarizing my things: data fabrication, creating fake idea, falsification, manipulating the data, plagiarizing, copying other work, salami publication, segmenting your work with multiple publication, dual publication, same paper into multiple journal, inappropriate authorship, right? Gift authorship, ghost authorship, and last is a conflict of interest. So remember, these are the common issue with publication. So try to have a ethical approval, try to make this, if trials you should register data, you avoid try to falsification and fabrication, double check for data accuracy, and of course software are available, so you should check for plagiarism also. And whenever you publish, make authorship criteria very clear, and please acknowledge the people who have contributed to your project, and conflict of interest should be declared. So these are my references, and thank you all. If any question, I think time is not there. So now I hand over to Dr. JS. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, madam. It was a nice talk. And about plagiarism, all must be aware, because I can share that one of my article, which was first, when I send it to one of the journal, they first get a plagiarism check, and the comment was, your article has 40% plagiarism, so please revise and resubmit. So each and every point about ethical consideration must be known, not just for BCBR course, but for our good clinical practice also. So thank you, Dr. Manisha ma'am. Thank you once again for your nice
Thank
talk.
you all. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And going further, our next esteemed speaker is Dr. Kailas Bhanani sir. Sir is Associate Professor of Community Medicine in our own college. Sir has experience of 25 years. And sir will take the topic of principles of data collection and how to conduct clinical trials. And let us get the words from sir. And I just request all of you to keep your mic muted during the talk. So over to Bhalani sir.
Good afternoon to everyone. Time is very short, and we have almost 15 minutes for a topic, and I'm here for two topics. So first is about conducting clinical trials. It's very difficult to justify the complete topic in this 10-15 minutes, but I'll try to cover as much as possible, and the critical points or concepts or highlights, whatever you can say, I'll cover. Okay. Clinical trials are very rapidly growing since last 20-30 years or so, and most of the trials were being conducted either by the pharmaceutical companies or by the research institutions. But since last, say, about 10 years, there are some challenges, we can say, like delayed approval or ethical review, or some issues related to samples. I mean, importing and exporting samples from other countries and to the other countries. So there are many regulatory issues which has to be considered while planning a clinical trial. And the other critical issue is we have a very, deficiency of duly trained investigators and also centers for clinical trials. That's also an issue. And then there are clauses for compensation recently introduced for clinical trial participants. And the requirement of audiovisual recording, which is currently prescribed only for the new drug trials. But people are using this or doing this for almost all trials, but that is not necessary as of now. Okay. So for clinical trials, 3 different kind of reviews are to be done. Okay, and each has its own concern. So first is scientific review. That is primarily for the whether the research question is appropriate or not, and whether the protocol or whatever the method is appropriate for the research question is to be considered by the scientific advisory or review committee. So it may be institutional level scientific committee or maybe some other agencies like ICMR, depending on where you are submitting your protocol. The next is ethical review. The primary concern for ethical review is the safety and welfare of the research participants, whether they are adequately protected or not. That is to be reviewed by the ethical committee. And again, institutional ethical committee can review it, and if the project is of national level or regional level, then the central or national ethical committee can review the project. The third is regulatory review, which is primarily whether the protocol or the project is meeting various regulatory requirement of the area, of the country, or of the region. That is to be reviewed by the depending on the type of the project. It may be Health Ministry, it may be Drug Controller General of India, or Genetic Engineering Approval Committee. Okay, so depending on the intervention being used or the type of project, concerned regulatory body should review or will review the research methods and the protocol. So that is regulatory review. So these are the 3 different types of review for a clinical trial, which has to be undergone, and these reviews are to be done by the concerned committee, and that is the responsibility of the PI or the principal investigator. So principal investigator has to decide which review are required, and he has to manage the approval from the concerned regulatory or the reviewing body. Ethical issues are, nowadays is a very sensitive aspect of the clinical trial. So we have to ensure few aspects in this regard. So first is there a mechanism for independent ethical review? The ethical review committee, or it may be at institutional level, at regional level, or at national level, but it has to be there. Which mechanisms exist to ensure protection of human subjects throughout trial participation? That has to be addressed, that has to be considered. Is there adequate community engagement and support? That is very much necessary, because from the planning stage to the execution stage, we have to show that the community representation is there in the whole designing or in the method, because there are issues which can be raised by the community or the general or layman or participants afterwards. So when the issues come to us, we have to justify it that the community representation was there in the ethical committee or in the review committee, and they have raised the issues, and the issues have been appropriately addressed. So we have to, in order to justify that, we need to engage the community at the different stages of the protocol. Then the informed consent. Now it's again a very sensitive matter. Informed consent, I think by now different speakers must have told about little bit about, but it is very critical for ethical review. So informed consent means the participants have to be informed each and every detail of the protocol, effects, side effects, advantage, disadvantage, what are the exact methods which has to be explained in detail to the participants, and then we have to get their sign on the informed consent form. Okay, so each and every participant should sign the informed consent. So again, if it is not done, then it's a very serious issue we may face afterwards. So and even after the planning stage, standard of care has to be maintained throughout the trial and even post trial. So for any intervention, if we have to provide a proper standard care related to the intervention or otherwise till a reasonable follow-up period, okay, during the trial and post trial, both. The other issue is using placebos. Placebos, whether it should be used, should not be used, is contradictory, but by default, if we do not have any other medicine or vaccines, whatever intervention is there, available for the same issue or same health, the disease, okay, then we can use placebo. But if the option is available, alternative is available, then we should go for that alternative for comparison of the new intervention. And confidentiality, now it's very well known, we have to ensure confidentiality of the data of the participants. So these are the major issues, major ethical issues in clinical trials. The procedure of informed consent. Okay, again, these are the critical issues. How we are taking the consent. Okay, that has to be recorded, and there is a very, it has to be explained in their own language till their satisfaction, and then we have to get their sign on the consent form. The next critical point is the recruitment of the participants.
फोटोग्राफी का करवाना था.
Yes.
HOD सब HOD का नहीं. कॉफी टेबल कहाँ पे?
Please mute your mics, please. Okay, so the next is at the recruitment level. While recruiting, we have to adhere to the protocol. So whatever protocol we have designed, we have to adhere to the protocol. So screening and enrollment will depend on the inclusion exclusion criteria, which again will depend on the it has to good clinical and laboratory practices. So whichever criteria we have set in our protocol has to be followed with good clinical and laboratory practices, with ensuring quality control and quality assurance. Then the next is intervention and follow-up. Again, we have to be very careful that we are adhering to the intervention properly, and whatever follow-up mechanisms we have decided at the protocol level should be adhered to. Okay, if we are following the participants every week, then we have to follow up every week all participants. If we have we have decided to follow up every month, then we have to follow up every month till the time limit we have set, maybe 2 years, 3 years, whatever we have time limit we have set, we have to follow up till that period. Okay, and in case of multicentric trials, there are some other issues like say uniformity or standardization or quality control. In order to ensure quality, standardization is very, very essential. Okay, in study protocols. So we have to standardize the protocol and the procedures, all the procedures which we are going to use in the study have to be standardized. We have to train and retrain the whole team. So we have to train and retrain the whole team time to time in order to maintain the uniformity and standardization of the study protocol. Then the sponsor has the responsibility of appointing an independent agency for monitoring of the whole trial. Once the protocol is finalized, the whole process from the beginning till the end, whether the protocol is being adhered to or not, that has to be monitored by the independent agency. Okay, and that agency has to be appointed by the sponsor, and that agency's job is to monitor the whole process. Okay, and that agency should be third party agency, neither the investigator side nor the sponsor side nor the participant side, but there has to be third party agency which is supposed to monitor the whole process and raise the issue if there is any. That agency is also responsible for the reporting and management of adverse and serious, I mean, the investigator is responsible for the reporting and management of the adverse and serious adverse events, but that agency will look after whether that is being followed or not. Recently there are regulations or rules which have specified guideline for the reimbursement or compensation for the participants of the clinical trials. Okay, very specific guideline is there for the calculation of the compensation, and there are some provisions for the reimbursement of expenses, like say a loss of daily wages or maybe travel expenses or food expenses, etc. But we have to remember that there is no provision for incentives. Okay, the amount should not be up to that level. The participants will redressal mechanism. Okay, if any participant has any grievances once they are in the trial, okay, then they should have a access to the grievance mechanism where they can raise their concern and get the resolution. Okay, and at the planning level itself, we have to have a trial stoppage rules. Means when the trial will be stopped. Okay, in case of some critical events like say death or some severe complications or hospitalization like events, once the third party review says, I mean, opines that the trial has to be stopped, then it has to be stopped. So, but that rules have to be defined in the beginning. Okay, and we have to specify the archival mechanism of the records, documents. Okay, all starting from the protocols to the approvals to the informed consents, and then the other records. All other records have to be preserved, archived properly, and that mechanism has to be specified in the beginning. Some impediments in the participation from both sides. I mean, from patient sides as well as from the provider side, healthcare provider side. Okay, which are they? So one is people are not aware about such trials. They may not have the access. They may be aware, but they may not have the access, and they may be afraid of suspicious of the research. कि भाई क्या हो रहा है, कैसे होगा, फिर क्या होगा, अगर कुछ उल्टा सीधा हुआ तो क्या होगा, whatever. Okay, so they may be afraid. Then they may not afford to participate. Okay, maybe far from their own place, or for some other reasons they may not, the participation may not be affordable to them, may not want to go against healthcare providers' wishes. Okay, their healthcare providers may advise against the participation, so they may not want to go against their advice. So that these are the possible impediments from the perspective of the patients for the participation in the clinical trial. Similarly, from the healthcare provider side, there are some impediments, like say lack of awareness of appropriate clinical trial, lack of awareness of appropriate clinical trials, and sometimes they are unwilling because they may fear that they may lose control on the patients. So once the patient starts participating in the clinical trial, they may not be able, I mean, their patient will be lost to the clinical trial setup. So they may fear like this, and they may believe that standard therapy is the best. I mean, no need of the new intervention or new drug or whatever. Okay, so they may think like that, and that may be the impediments. They may be concerned that clinical trials add administrative burdens. If they will participate in the clinical trial, their burden, I mean, workload will unnecessarily increase. So these are the impediments from the healthcare provider side. But RCTs have their own advantages and disadvantages. Okay, the advantages are it is the only effective method known to control selection bias. This is the only effective method. It controls confounding bias without any adjustments, facilitates effective blinding in some trials. I mean, if required, maybe single, double, or triple, but facilitates blinding in some trials if required. Maintains all advantages of the cohort studies. Basically, this is the the basic design is the cohort design. So it maintains all the advantages of the cohort studies. And at the same time, there are disadvantages, like it may be a little more complex and expensive. Sometimes it lacks representativeness. Volunteers differ from the population of interest. Okay, those who are volunteering for the trial may be different from the population in which we are interested in for research. So volunteers may have their own interest, and because of their own interest, they are coming forward and they participate. But at the same time, the population in which we are interested may not be there in the trial, and that's why we may lack representativeness. And as we have discussed, there are so many ethical challenges particularly for intervention trials. Okay, we have to be very cautious in this regard, because nowadays it's a very atmosphere is very sensitive towards the ethical part of the trial. So that's it from my side for this topic. Okay, I know it's very fast. It's just highlights, but this is the thing which is this much only is possible in this much duration. Still, if you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll proceed for the next topic. Okay, so I think there is no question, or it's difficult to raise the question in this speed, with this speed. Okay, but the enough material is available on the website. Okay, so let's move to the next topic, which is preparing a concept paper for the research project. Okay, so what is concept paper? At the end of this session, you should be able to write down a concept paper for a research project. Okay, till now, more or less, we have discussed these steps of a good protocol. Okay, usually these are the 7 steps. Okay, what we do is we identify a topic and then frame a question and objectives related to that topic. Then we can prepare a concept paper, prepare dummy tables, then detailed protocol, then the instruments, I mean questionnaires or forms or etc. and annexes, and then we can submit the protocol for the peer review and then the ethical review. So these are the usual steps of a good successful protocol. Okay, usually research goes on in this cycle. Okay, you must have seen these slides. Okay, so identify data needs, where we have the lack of data, where we can then frame the question or the problem. That is, we spell out the question and then we formulate the study objectives, and then methods and analysis, planning of the analysis rather, and then we can prepare data collection instruments, collect data, analyze data, draw conclusions, formulate recommendations, and they inform the concerned stakeholders. जो भी result है, whatever the results are there, we have to inform or send those results to the concerned stakeholders, so that your efforts, your results can be used by someone. Okay, and again the cycle restarts. There may be some I mean, afterwards we can find that there are more needs of more data. Okay, then again we can plan a new research, and that's how the research goes on. The life cycle of the research goes on. Okay, so in these 7 steps of a good protocol, as we have seen in the previous slide, the second one is outline a 1-page concept paper, and that is the topic of this presentation. Okay, we should be able to prepare a 1-page or a very short concept paper. It's a kind of highlight of a protocol, okay, or miniature version of the protocol. And why do we need this concept paper? Okay, concept paper is the first presentation of your idea or whatever, your concept. Okay, we need, because we all know that time is precious for us, for our guide or faculty, and also for the agencies which are funding to you or your project. Okay, so these people may not have sufficient time to go through a detailed protocol. All the details of all the protocols. Okay, so if we submit a 1-page concept paper, they may go through it. They may be able to go through it, and then primarily they can screen at primary level. Okay, and your topic can be focused. And the agency can reject or accept or give you approval to go ahead with the concept paper, and they may ask you to develop a detailed protocol. Okay, so it basically this can save the time of the different stakeholders. The other, you may say, application of the concept paper is, if this kind of provision is not there, concept paper, then there are many ideas which may not get born. Okay, they may not get developed. So because detailed development of a protocol requires a lot of efforts and time, so if we submit a concept paper and if that gets approval, then it may be possible that afterwards we can develop it into a detailed protocol. Okay, and that way many ideas can be born and can be developed to a next stage. Okay, so outline of the 1-page bullet style concept paper. So basically it's 1 page or maybe 2 page, but it's in the bullet style presentation. Okay, so these are the 6 major heads in which we are supposed to write down a concept paper. First is background and justification, then the objectives, methods, expected benefits, key references, and budget. These are the 6 heads under which we have to write down a concept paper. So background and justification, the first head, where we are supposed to write down importance of the problem. Whatever problem we want to investigate, we have to justify that why this is a problem and why it is important to address this problem. Okay, so that has to be justified. The second point under justification can be what is known and unknown about the problem at that point of time. If we are planning a project today, okay, so whatever topic we have selected, whatever problem we have identified, what is already known in this regard regarding that problem, and what is not known. So that has to be described in very brief, maybe 3, 4, 5 lines under justification or background. And the information that is missing to address the problem effectively, that has to be clearly written in the third para or the third point, which information is lacking in this regard for this problem. Okay, and that is why this study has been planned. The next head is objectives. In concept paper, usually we write down 2 to 3 objectives. It has to be very specific. It has to be framed in a proper manner so that the problem which we want to address can be understood from the objective. Okay, It can be grouped into general and specific. General may be a goal, broader objective, and specific may be a breakup of that goal or smaller objectives. It can be also grouped into primary and secondary. It should be grouped rather primary objective and secondary objectives, because primary objective is required for calculation of the sample size and in the other requirement. Okay. Then the secondary objectives may be there, but that may not be considered for the calculation of the sample size, etc. We have to focus on primary objectives only. So we have to group into primary and secondary objectives. Okay. So 2-3 objectives, and we have to be very specifically mentioned which is our primary objective. So accordingly, we can design the methods and calculate sample size. Okay. Then the third head is methods. Okay. Methods means we are not going to describe the very detailed methods in the concept paper, but we are going to provide only outline of the methods. Okay, so under these headings or subheadings, we can provide outline of the headings. Each subtopics or each heading has a separate bullet. Okay, one bullet per point. Okay, so study design. Just write down the name of the design, which design you are going to use for your study. Study population, specifically write down which population. Then which are the various operational definitions you are going to use for your project. Okay, so 3-4 very critical definitions for your project can be written down there. Then the sampling procedure, which sampling method you are going to use, sample size, and the assumptions you are making for calculation of your sample size. Okay, so very brief, in a sentence or a two or a line, maybe 2 or 3 lines, you can write down each bullet. Okay, not very much in detail. Then how you are going to collect the data. Okay, whether records or survey or interview or whatever method. Okay, just write down 1 or 2 lines how you are going to collect the data and what is your analysis plan. Depending on, I mean, whether the descriptive studies or the analytical studies, you can give some highlights about your analysis plan, which tests you are going to use, etc. And what are the ethical issues in your protocol and how you have planned to address them. So basically, how you are planning to protect the participants of your study. That has to be specified in brief. Okay, 3, 4, 5 sentences. So that is your method. The next is references. Okay, it is primarily to justify that you have gone through the literature in a sufficient manner, and you are aware about your topic, what is known, what is not known, what is latest update regarding your selected topic. That should be justified with the help of the literature review. Okay, so you can refer those literatures and then put over the references in the concept paper, but don't try to make a whole long list of the references. Just maybe around 5 references you can put, critical 5 references which you have used in your introduction or other at some other places. You can put those 5 references, and references has to be in the format of standard guidelines. Okay, Vancouver or maybe International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, both are same more or less, but the guidelines for references are given, and we have to specify or we have to write down the references in that manner. Okay, so key references. And again, last but not the least, it's a budget. Okay, we have to specify the budget. May not be in very much detail again, but 4, 5, 6 lines. Detailed justification not required at this level, but just a broad idea how much we are going to need for this project, rough idea, and maybe break up in this 4, 5 headings, maybe salaries or per diem required, travel expenses, equipments and other supplies required, and maybe some miscellaneous expenditure. we are expecting, that can be written down under budget. Okay, so these are the requirement under this budget. So broadly, this is the outline of the concept paper. 6 heads. What is to be there? We have discussed in very brief. Okay. We all are aware that ICMR is giving grant under different heads. Okay, and their requirement, primary requirement, is to submit the proposal, and they are then they will approve. Okay, one of the headings under which they are funding is extramural project. Okay, so extramural projects, their pre-proposal format, not proposal, for submitting pre-proposal for extramural project, this is the guideline. Okay, so you can see the title: introduction, novelty, applicability, and description of the project. Okay, under description, we need to describe methods, feasibility, outcome, and budget. So more or less, it is the same as which we have discussed for concept paper, except novelty. Novelty, we have to justify how it is novel. Okay, I mean, our topic is how it is different, or why it is not similar to already investigated or already researched topic. That has to be justified separately, but otherwise the same structure is there. Okay, so we have discussed generic structure. Different agencies may have their own requirement, their own formats, but generic structure we have discussed, so we can fit this generic structure into the required format of different agencies. So ICMR is requiring in this format for extramural projects. ICMR is also funding STS for undergraduates. Okay, and their requirement for proposal requirement in this format. Okay, so again, this is matching to the generic structure of the concept paper which we have discussed right now. Okay, so title, introduction, objectives, methods, implications, and references. They are giving word limits.
पूरा खाली हो गया तो
Okay.
क्या हुआ था?
So
2 पॉइंट है अभी वो बता रहा
they are
जाते समय
giving
आते
word
समय 2 पॉइंट
limits.
ठीक है 3500 को डालो 3500
So we have to be very brief in this regard. So what can we achieve with one-page concept paper? We can organize our ideas. Sometimes randomly we are having some ideas कि भी ऐसा होता तो क्या होता या कैसे होता, whether this is good or that is good, और कितना बड़ा problem है, whatever. Okay, so those ideas can be organized with the help of the concept paper if we can find out right words to put in place. And if we can find those words, then we can stand out in the competitions of these proposals and may receive a rapid and positive response from the approver. Okay, so that can be achieved with the one-page concept paper. This is already there in your material, so due to lack of time, I am not going to discuss that. These are the actually samples of the templates of the concept paper for the observation studies as well as for the intervention studies. Okay, so you can go through it. It's basically a template. You can edit that. It is already available on the website. You can edit them and you can fit your protocol into this. That's it from my side. If you have any question, please.
Thank you, Joy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Bharani sir, for your nice talks. And again, we will have few more lectures, and continuing with it, our next speaker is Dr. Darshan Dave sir. Sir is Additional Dean, Professor and Head of Pharmacology at GMS Medical College, Gandhinagar, with teaching experience of 20 years. And sir will take the topic of manuscript writing and grant proposal writing. So over to you, sir. Now the voice is yours. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chinmay Bhai and other colleagues. I'm going to take session on first manuscript writing, followed by how to write a grant proposal. Just wait, I am sharing my slide. Yes, sir. It is there now. Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Yes,
सर
my
दिखाई
slide
दे
is
रही है आपकी
visible?
slide दिखाई
Okay, am I audible clearly? Can you please write in the chat box, am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Continue.
So, okay. So, okay. So, manuscript writing, this phase comes when you have completed your research, you have write down all the data findings, discussion, everything, and then the last phase is to go for the publication. And for that, you have to organize your research ideas, what you have done, in a very logical and sequential manner. And you have to articulate your content in such a way that you can deliver your message effectively. Okay. So first of all, what is manuscript? So manuscript is nothing but it is a document which is submitted for publication. Okay. And now as far as our medical field is concerned, so in the journal, different types of the scientific manuscripts are there, right from the original research article. Whenever we are talking about the manuscripts, we always think of original research article only. But there can be review article also. Whenever you are writing something to the author, it is called correspondence to the author. When you are editor of a journal, you can write editorial. Then sometimes if your research work is very small, then it will come under the heading of short communication and an individual case report, collection of case report, that is called case series. And if you are sharing something educational material, it will come under the heading of educational forum. Okay. Now, before we start writing, that certain things should be very clear. That what you have done. Okay, fine. That you must have at least result in your hand. That is one. Then there are 2 to 3 key points for the recommendations. It should be there, and you must have some outline of the argument. This should be there before you start the writing. Okay. Now, in the manuscript writing, we have to follow the IMRD structure. Okay, this I stands for introduction or the background of the rest of them. Why? why you want to do this study. That is one. Methods. What did you do or what you did to get your objectives? Obviously, a study is there. There are objectives. What you have done for your study objectives? What did you find? That comes under the result section. And what does it all mean? That is a discussion. That is IMRD. Okay. Now introduction. Introduction starts with the background knowledge. Then what is the knowledge that is already existing and what is the gap in the knowledge? So that is knowledge gap. Then why you want to study, what you are going to do. So that is objectives. So it starts with the background, then some knowledge gap, that shows the rationale of the study and study objectives. Okay. Now the most important part is the methodology. In the methodology, you write about the study settings, means the study site where you are going to do the study or where you have done the study. Study design. What was your study design? Some operational definitions. These are many a times lacking. Okay, in different research papers, it is better to write the operational definitions. What is the sampling strategy, sample size, study procedure, how you are going to collect the data and analyze the data, and what about the human participant protection. All this will come under the methodology. Then result, yes. What you found in in your study, that will come under the heading of the result, and it is a mixture of something you write in a text, something you write in a table, something you write in a figure. But dear friends, one thing should keep in your mind that you have to follow the guidelines. Suppose if you are writing a manuscript and if you want to submit in XYZ journal, you have to go through the submission guidelines and you have to prepare according to your journal guidelines. Say for example, some journal says only 3 tables or 2 figures like that. Then you have to decide that these are the 2 or 3 tables I want to highlight in my manuscript, and the rest of the things you write in a text. But always take care that there must not be repetition. It means that the things that are there in the table, no need to write in the text, and vice versa. Okay, and the most crucial part is you have to write only the facts. You don't have to start interpreting your result in the result section. Okay, so these are the basics of the result. Then next, the most vital part. You have to write the summary of your findings. That is first. Then next is you have to interpret your findings. What is your interpretation? What is your inference? Okay, and you may compare your study findings with the other study. But many a times one very basic mistake done by the many manuscript writers, that and especially the PG students, that we are focusing more and more on comparing the study. In my study it is this, in this study it is this, in this study it is this, in this. No, it's not like that. Comparison should be done in the discussion, but primary part is your own interpretation, your own inference, and the supportive reference for that, followed by the comparison. Then the next part is what is the strength of your study. Each and every study is having some strength, and there are certain definite limitations. Strength, maybe you have done a very extensive long duration study. This can be the strength. Then if your methodology is very sound, if your tool, that questionnaire or any tool which is a very novel, all this can be. Or you have done the study in a very remote or hilly area, that is again a strength. Okay, At the same time, one should be very honest in writing a limitation. Many times we feel that if we are writing a limitation, my paper is not going to be accepted. No, it will give you rather the your conclusion and future recommendations. So all this should be there in a discussion. This is followed by so after this IMRD structure, before going to the abstract, I want to highlight one thing, that is, yes, references. So in the introduction and background, you have used many sources of the reference. Then in the discussion also, in methodology, if you have adapted some questionnaire, so all sources of information you referred come under the heading of references. But it must be relevant and recent. These two things must be there. Reference style, majority of the journals, they follow the one core style for Harvard, but mainly one core style. So you follow that uniformly. And nowadays, the software for bibliography management like Mendeley, Zotero, it is available. So you can use that. And this is important. Here you can see that here the in-text citation, here you can see that this number 1, 2 in-text citations are there, and at the end you have to write the references. So this is about the references. Now 2 or 3 more points I want to tell. That one is the keyword. Okay, we have to write the keywords, and unfortunately many of the students, they are just loosely writing that 3 or 4 words that are there in the title. No, the purpose of the keyword is the keyword should be such that if any other researcher wants to search the articles of you, and if they add these keywords in a search engine, the probability of getting your article is very high. Okay, so if the correct keyword is there, possibility to find your article by researcher, it will be increased, and the byproduct is obviously the citation will be more, your articles will be more used for the references. Okay, so this is all about the keywords. Now the last part is, after that, after everything you have prepared, the last part is you have to prepare abstract. And why I have highlighted in a red font? Because it is the most commonly read part of the manuscript. Okay, abstract you can also call it as a miniature manuscript. Like जैसे मूवी की ट्रेलर होती है, वैसे the abstract is a trailer of manuscript. It may be structured or unstructured. Nowadays, majority of the actually are structured. Structured in terms of you write background 2 to 3 lines, then the methodology, then results, and then discussion and conclusion. And according to the guideline of the journal, it ranges from 100 to 350 words, and it is really a very big challenge that you have to concise your whole manuscript in such a way that just by reading this 250 to 350 words, one can understand the detail about your manuscript. Okay, so the next is, yes, this is very important. As I've told you that there are 3 or 4, okay, the key points for the arguments or the discussions. Now the sequence, this is argument matrix. Suppose you have taken these 3 points, you take these 3 points 1, 2 and 3 in the introduction. Similarly, you discuss these 3 points in the methods, similarly in the results and the discussion, like this, similarly in the limitations and recommendations. So if you follow this sequence, it is better for a reader to understand this, to digest this, to gain the interest. Okay, so one should follow this argument matrix, and for that you must have this right from the beginning, you have to decide that these are the 2 or 3 crucial points on which I am focusing. Okay, now I'm not going into the detail of the manuscript and the thesis. Okay, but one can take the snapshot of this. Yes, additional information that generally you are whenever you are submitting a manuscript, there is a one title page followed by the cover letter. You again you have to emphasize the next session is on funding. So what is the funding source? Is there any conflict of interest? And now majority of the journals they ask that what is the contribution of each and every author and appendices. Suppose there is any questionnaire or case record form, it should be there in a appendices. And last but not the least, if you have taken some help from someone, you must have to acknowledge them. And if the contribution is sizable, you can add them as an author also, but depends on the contribution, either the authorship or the acknowledgement should be there. Then it is better. And now many journals they ask for the plagiarism checking certificate. Okay, so you should use this plagiarism software and find out the plagiarism for that. And lastly, some tips for making your writing more clearer, that use a very simple and necessary words. Use consistent terminology. So on one side, one time you are writing type 2 diabetes, then another time you are writing non-insulin dependent diabetes, not like that. You use particular term, then you use it throughout your paper. Use non-offensive languages. Your language must not be offensive. Avoid passive voice and the length of the sentence. Length of the sentence should be reasonable. It should not be too long or it should not be too short. Okay. So, host, please mute someone else. Then there should be scientific language editing. You can do that. It should always be done for the grammar, punctuation, sentence structure, spell check. Okay. And obviously the font style, size, but this all depends on which journal you are submitting. You have to follow that guidelines. Okay. So the take home message is, this slide is very important. You have to follow the IMRD, introduction, methods, results and discussion section. That is one. You have to identify 2 or 3 central messages. And for that, you have to follow this logical structure argument matrix. Improvise your scientific writing style, adhere to the guidelines, and you write the article, then you yourself review it, then you revise it, you take feedback from your colleagues, seniors, mentors, again you revise it, and over a period of the time, it's an art, then you can prepare a very sound scientific manuscript writing. So now I think everyone is ready for a very quick question answer session. You have to write the answer in a chat box. Okay, very quickly. First question. Before start writing for manuscript, following materials should be available except table of the study result, figure of the study result, objectives of the study, and study conclusion. Quickly write in the chat box your answer. There are no negative marking. Okay. Dr. Yogesh has said D. Gaurang D. Okay. Okay, so very good. My task is over. Majority of you have written D. Very good. That obviously you have done the study. So table study result. Result is always available. Objectives obviously it is available, but the study conclusion, obviously it is not there before starting the study.
हाँ
What is IMRD structure? For in this IMRD structure, what is this M stands for? M stands for manuscript or master file or methodology or meta-analysis. M
Manuscript.
stands for,
Manuscript.
no, in the IMRD structure, M stands for methodology. I for introduction, M for methodology, R for result, and D for discussion. So it is a methodology. Okay. And the last is, which of the following is not a study limitation? Small sample size, shorter duration of the study conducted at a very remote area, or all of the above?
All of the above.
Be conducted at remote area.
Yes, obviously the small sample size is a limitation. Shorter duration again is a limitation. But if you are doing a study in a remote area, it's a challenge. It is a strength. It is not the limitation. So the answer is C. Okay. Now, which of the following is also called the miniature manuscript? Miniature manuscript किसको कहेंगे?
Abstract.
Very good. Abstract. Abstract is called miniature.
Abstract, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, abstract.
And you have already get the answer. So there is some problem from my side. Sorry for that. Interpretation of study findings should be done in the result section. Obviously, no.
No.
Okay. And the last is, one must not add any new findings in the conclusion. Obviously true. Okay, it should be there in a discussion or result, but it should not be there lastly in the conclusion. So that is all about this session. If you are having any question, you write in the chat box, or you can ask directly also. Or otherwise, because of the lack of the time, I just go on the next session. Dr. Kamlesh, you do something so proper version will come. My slide is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, okay,
Visual.
okay, fine. So grant proposal writing. Now can anyone tell that what is the need for the grant proposal? A very silly question. Can anyone just tell what is the need?
Sir,
You can write in chat
for
box.
the intended project.
I'm not getting your voice clearly. You can write in chat box. Can we open chat box? Okay. Fine, no issue. That yes, yes, very good, very good. someone has written funding, because for any research work, if you want to do the research work, except just the paper and pen based research, for any other research work, if you want to do, there is a requirement of expertise, lot of time, significant infrastructure, equipment, and all these require funding. Okay, so without the money, you cannot proceed for the any research work. Can you somewhat write? Okay, fine. So, these are the different, but first and the foremost, it should be clear in your mind that what is your type of the research, whether it is a pilot project or a full-blown research, whether it is a thesis or postdoctoral research, whether it is a fellowship or it is a multicentric, multi-year clinical project. It should be very clear in your mind that which type of the research that you are doing, and then make to make your idea more sharpen, you should specify that, you should ask to yourself that why is this topic is important, what is its relevance as far as the current scenario is concerned, what is its societal impact, what are the hypotheses that you want to prove or disprove, which are the research methodology that you are going to use, and it is observational or interventional research. If you are going to answer all these questions, it makes your study more specific, and that will help you. I will let you know later that why it is required for a grant writing. Okay, so this life cycle of this grant writing, it starts with, as I told you, first is what is the type of the project, and type of the project, not only the observational intervention, but here I want to specify that what is your objective of the study. And one thing, if you just want to remember one line from this presentation, then this line is this, that your objective or your priority of the research work, it must match with the priority of the funding agency. If you just go through the website of any funding agency, and if you check the home page, any funding agency, there are certain priorities, there are certain agendas. So if your project is even if your project is significantly sound, there is no scientific question about it, but still there are 100% chances that you will not get funding from the agency if your agenda is not matching with the priorities of the funding agency. Okay, so according to the type of the project, you have to find the funding agencies. Later on, I will tell you which are the different funding agencies. Then after finding the funding agencies, what you have to do, you have to make some modifications of on the proposals that you already made. Because generally what we are doing, that we are preparing a one general proposal. Okay, and then we search for the funding agency. This is the usual scenario. Then according to the guidelines of the funding agency, we make some modifications. So preparation and modification of the proposal as per the funding agency. And obviously you are submitting the proposal. Then your proposal will be checked or reviewed by the funding agency, then decision of the funding agency. Now, majority of the times the answer of the funding agency is not in the terms of yes and no, but either it is in terms of no or yes, but with certain curtailment in the funding. It is not exactly the same as you have asked. Now it's you that you have to decide whether you have to agree with that cutoff in the funding or not. And if you have agreed that, then you have to complete certain formalities like bank details. You have to submit, sign certain agreements, mandate forms. After completing all these formalities, then as you will get the fund, you have to conduct the project, and then most important part is you have to file the submission report. Now, many funding agency ask that in between also you have to submit the report. Okay, so this is actually the life cycle of the grant proposal. Fine. Now, one curiosity is always there in your mind that what the reviewer will check, what the funding agent, what are the deciding factor by the funding agency that will decide that whether they will do the approval or not. They will look into the what is the novelty of the project, is it worth knowing, and whether the conclusions that you are coming to, whether these conclusions are valid or not. Okay, so this is all about the things that you should keep in your mind. And you have to organize your proposal. I will not go into the detail, but two things. If you just see the highlighted portion, two things, that is new budget and justification and timeline. So I directly jump onto that area, preparing the budget. Now this budget can be divided into the two. One is the recurring cost. You require these expenses on a monthly or a periodic basis, and certain is one-time cost, that is non-recurring cost. And there is a third, that is other, that miscellaneous. It can be a travel, it can be a overhead or something like that. Now in the recurring, with things will come obviously the HR, because you have to pay them monthly or as you have pre-decided certain consumables. Okay, now I'm going to explain you in the next slide. First is the staff. Here the most important thing is you justify the need of each and every staff in detail. Why you require this faculty or this personnel, and which kind of the expertise do you want, what is the experience do you want, and up to how long period this HR is required. Many a time, suppose you require a scientist, you require one software engineer, you require one statistician, but you require a scientist for the entire duration of the study, 12 months. But statistician you require only for the 3 months. Then you write specifically. And if you want to give more credit, then if any faculty from your own institute who is regularly being paid by your institute, then you can write that name of that faculty also, and on the budget part you can write it as zero cost. It will it includes the credibility. Okay, and certain things, suppose you want to develop some website or like that, there is a no need to assign a particular person, but you just consider the outsourcing. Okay, because this is the most commonly cut item while the budget is being granted. Okay, so here you can see that the item you have to write specifically, say for example, scientist D, justification, work as a project coordinator, specialization, MD in community medicine, 5 years of experience, unit. It means that as it is a recurring per month. Okay, if it is per day, you write per day. It is per month, you write per month. And the unit cost, it is 80,000. Quantity you require for a 12 month, so that is 12. So total 9,60,000. Same way in the technical assistant, here I have just shown the 12 months, but it can be deeper for different individual also. Next is the equipment. First and foremost, you justify the need of each equipment, write in detail, explicit detail about the make and the model. Okay, and if you want to use some instrument which is already available in your department, you mention that and you show the zero cost. It will again add the commitment, it will show your commitment to do the study. And very important, this we are forgetting, and then it will create a problem, and many a times one has to stop the project also. Whenever you are writing equipment details in the budget, you always have to add the maintenance cost. Okay, you must not forget that. Then the next is consumables. Okay, this is most likely to be accepted. Printer, rings, syringes, paper, gloves, mask, depending on the type of your research. So, and generally the budget is majority of the times approved for this. But again, suppose your study lasts for 2 years, you make specific about the expiry date also. So here is, you can see the item is the office essentials, justification, all these files, folders, blinders, highlighters, everything. Here, these are these you want as a lump sum, and you have highlighted these under the one heading. So there is a no question of the unit, and this lump sum total cost is 50,000, and so the same is reflected in the total amount. Consumables, again the another cost is recruitment. For the recruitment of the HR, for recruitment of any other personnel, you want to do the advertisement, logistic cost for that. For meeting, you write the justification. So all these will come under the consumables. And the other cost for the travel, cost for the consultancy, and most important, institutional overheads. You are using the space, you are using the area, you are using the telephone, electricity, water, vehicle, everything of the institute. So you have to highlight in your budget of the institutional overhead also. And many institutes in their SOP they have mentioned that ranges from 2% to 5% as an institutional overhead. Okay. So if you sum up, this should be a detailed budget proposal. This is a spreadsheet. Okay. Each item, first is the heading, then subheading, then again in the heading, the item, justification of the item, whether it is a unit, then what is the unit, per day, per month, or lump sum, each unit cost, quantity you required, and total cost. Okay. So now something about the funding agencies. In my previous presentations, fellow colleague has already told that Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, you just go through the website of the ICMR. ICMR is funding various projects. Then Department of Science and Technology, DBT, Department of Biotechnology, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, University Grant Commission, and DRD. There are various private agencies also like Tata Memorial Trust, Azim Premji Foundation, and various specific societies for Alzheimer's disease, autism, cancers, and others. Okay. ICMR, I'm not going into the detail because extramural grants provided by ICMR already been discussed. Certain international agencies also, but if you are taking funding from the international agencies, you have to take the approval from the Central Health Ministry also. So actually speaking, presently you may not agree with that, because majority of us are thinking that, sir, we want to do so many projects, but there is a question of the funding. But no, it is not the question of the funding, but it is the lack of the knowledge of us regarding the availability of the funding agencies and not proper funding proposal. You have to convince the funding agency. Agencies are always ready, but you have to convince them by writing it very properly, precisely, in a justifiable manner. Okay, so these are, if you just enter these in a Google, you will find the websites: research and development funding scheme of central government, then research development office, then grants.gov, health research funders.org. All these are the databases of different funding agencies. But again, I am telling you, if you go through these, you will select the funding agency, you have to go to the home page and you have to check which are their priorities. Okay. The most important is beware of conflict of interest. You have to disclose both financial and non-financial conflict of interest, and it should be very clear that ideally the funding agency should only take part in the funding of the research part. It should not take part in the research process, result findings, analysis, and up to the publication. Okay, and it should be clear right from the beginning, and the same thing you have to mention while you are writing the manuscript also. Okay, so some important tips that you have to start very early. So you have to leave some time for feedback. You have to take feedback from your colleagues. You have to take feedback from the seniors whose studies they are already been approved and the grants are approved. Okay, and the most important thing is that if you do the study in a collaborative manner, collaborative manner. Say for example, you take the help of the statistician also, you take the help of 2 or 3 disciplines also, then the chances of the approval and the credibility will be more. Okay, so focus on the collaborative research. Okay, and so the last slide, the take home message is grant proposal writing is a very good skill. Okay, and it requires a practice. You do not despair if it is rejected. ऐसा सोच के ही चलोगे 5 से 7 बार तो रिजेक्ट होनी है वाली है. And you align with the agency's priorities and make clear of the conflict of interest. Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, now hand over to presenter.
So thank you, Darshan sir, for interactive talk. And once again, BCBR is the platform where we can learn basics of research. Now, our last lecture happened to be taken by Dr. Kedar Mehta sir, but as sir is busy, so it will be taken by Khud Gabbar himself. Dr. Chinmay sir will be taking the proceeding for the last lecture. So over to Chinmay sir.
So first of all, thank you very much for all the resource person. As this is the last lecture, I must thank all the resource person for. I don't have a words, frankly speaking, that by doing justice to the topic and taking the all session in 15 minutes, I think this recording will have a high viewership, because we all have tried to concise the thing and given in 15 minutes. So first of all, thank you very much all the resource person for their Herculean task. Secondly, I would like to thank Dr. Jay Solanki, because somehow we get an emergency meeting and everything, and he has nicely conducted session for all the 3 days. I also want to thank Balani sir, because the second topic had to be taken by me. Today morning I asked sir that please will you be able to take, and sir has really agreed. And this is the last session, and I think if we focus only the slide, this one slide, we'll be summarizing all part of our research protocols. Okay, and I think this is very easy in a form that all the content of the 7 step has been taken care by all the faculty before this session. So whenever anybody wants to prepare a successful protocol, they have to pass through these 7 steps. So step 1 will be, so it is, I can say this topic is the summary of all the 24 lectures taken before me. So number 1 is identify topic, questions and objective. After that, you have to go for preparing a concept paper. So what you will keep in mind when you are preparing a concept paper, that once you prepare it, the word used in English is sleep over it. Means keep it with you for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, and then again read it. Do it 2-3 times, and then ask one of your colleague to read it. Once your concept is ready, you will be now able to prepare a dummy table based on your questions and objective. See, what are your objective? Objectives are the things which leads to achieving of your aim, as well as same will be reflected in result and conclusion. And so whatever we want to achieve in objective, we will prepare a dummy table based on the objective. For example, my study is demographic detail or analysis of COVID patient. Then it means that what comes in demography, age, sex, geography, socio-economic status, that all will be my objective. So same will be reflected in the dummy table. Okay, once I create it, so now when I combine step 1, 2 and 3, I reach to step 4, that is a draft protocol. Okay, that how I am going to proceed in detail regarding the methodology, what are my sample size, what is the sampling methodology, and all the topics which we have covered till now, it comes under the draft protocols. Once we are finishing that, we again take 1 or 2 days, read it again after 6 hours or a second day, and then take help from the peer review. Usually it happens that most of the time we have a 2 or 3 investigator and co-investigator So when we write it combinedly, it will be better. And once approved by everyone, it will become a final draft protocol. Once you prepare a draft protocol, you will go into the intricacy of it. So what are the instruments required? For example, say the demographic detail of COVID patient. So you require height, weight, blood pressure if we want to include. So these are the instruments which you will require. An annexer will be all the different, for example, patient information sheet, your informed consent form. Okay. Then you have a case record form. That all annexer you will prepare, and then you will submit for peer review. And once you submit it for peer review, now at the most of the medical colleges we have a two committee. One is scientific committee and second is ethics committee. So it will go to the scientific committee. You may have a presentation, and once you approve from the scientific committee, it will go for ethics committee approval. And once you get it, you are ready to start. Okay. So what are the characteristics? It should not exceed 2000 words, and introduction should be less than 20% of the length, and it should contain 5 to 10 key reference. Okay. And these are the headings under which you are going to write the method section: study design, intervention, population, operational definition. See, sometimes it happens that I want to write a smoking. So what do you mean by smoking? I want to take alcohol. What do you mean by alcohol drinking? So that all you have to define your own operational definition, which you are going to use for your study. It may be based on the reference of some another book or some another article. Then comes data collection, sampling procedure, sample size, data collection, analysis plan, project implementation plan, and subject selection. Okay. Then based on which type of study design you are going to use, is it prospective or retrospective? So these all we have discussed till now. Okay. And that you are going to mention in your protocol. If the treatment is there, you have to write who will get it, what they will get, when they will get, and how they will get. Okay. So this is regarding description of intervention. Okay. Then comes study population petagraph. It includes inclusion and exclusion criteria. Here I want to emphasize that exclusion criteria are the criteria based on which you will remove the subject which are also matching inclusion criteria. For example, my study population is pediatric age group. So exclusion criteria will be, even though it is a pediatric, which are the things when I will remove that patient from the study. Otherwise, what we are writing, inclusion criteria pediatric patient, exclusion criteria adult. अरे भाई inclusion ही pediatric को automatically excluded है, तो exclusion में वो ही आएगा कि if the person is having this characteristic, even if he is meeting inclusion criteria, you will not take him to the study. So these are the detail you will include in the population paragraph. Okay. As I said, operational definition we will write, then sampling procedure, which we already cover, that which type of sampling you will do, how you will do, and whenever you are mentioning any sampling procedure, also provide the reference and explain the randomization, which method you are going to use for randomization. Okay. Then sample size, based on which criteria you use the sample size, what formula you use, what software you have used, that all you need to mention. How you will collect the data? Are you going to use Google Form? Are you going to use EpiCollect? Are you going to use any other software? Because a lot of softwares are available to collect the data. If it is a qualitative, how you are going to record it? If are you going to use Atlas TI or any other software to collect your data or anything that you have to mention. Okay. Then how you will do data entry in AP Info, in SPSS, in Jamovi, which software you are going to use? How you will do the record? How you are going to calculate the descriptive parameters, and how you are going to analyze it. So as I said previously, this is just a summary of what you all have studied till today. Okay. Then how you are going to plan it. So here important thing is project timeline, that which date is the deadline, before how many days you will complete your data collection, before how many days you will enroll the patient, before how many days you will go for ethics committee approval, and so before how many days you should have your draft protocol ready. So that is the important part when you are mentioning project implementation plan. Okay. Then based on the ICMR 2017 guideline, how you are going to select the human subject, and based on the human subject, ethics committee will decide that is it coming under acceptance for review, expedited review, or full review. Okay, so instrument, as I said, you will have to write in detail how you are going to collect the data, and so instrument details should be available. So annexer may include SOP, training framework, if fieldwork, participant recruitment material, study management plan, consent form, adverse reaction plan, and everything. Okay, so finally peer review by the ethics committee, and then you will start, once you get an approval, you will start taking your first patient. And as per the regulation now, you also need to do CTRI registration before you take your first patient. Okay, so I think it's all about the preparing a plan. These are few of the guidelines available on Equator Network, that which type of study you want to use. Based on that, how you are going to report once the study is over. Here you have a reporting guideline, that how you are going to report your study. So you can use the benefit or guideline from the Equator Network. So finally, I think this is the last slide, starting from identify the data need, spell out the research question, and it ending into the conclusion, formulating a recommendation, and finally informing the stakeholder. These are the things you need to do. Okay, so I think it's, I hope this is useful to all those who are attending. And again, I take this opportunity to thank DMER for this 4-day short summarizing schedules for BCBR. I think we have around more than 800 registration, and I can see that on and off people are coming to witness it, and that's why we have also done the recording, and you will be getting the same YouTube link you can access for recording of all 4 days. If you have any pressing questions, we can take this question. Again, I am thankful to all the resource person, our moderator, our resident doctors, Dr. Rinkal and Dr. Dhruvi, who has also coordinated with each and every resource person for making it happen. I am also thankful to Mr. Samik, Mr. Nilesh, and our IT team for constant support and YouTube Live. Thank you very much, everyone. If you have any questions, we can answer it. Otherwise, we can call for a day. Wish you all the best for your exam on 25th. And please do share your feedback. Thank you, sir. Darshan, any last comment from your side, or any resource person who is there? You can share your last line, last comments. Yes, sir. Any last comment from your side?
No, it was a really very nice experience, and I think we are going to take feedback from participants.
Yes, sir. We will be sharing feedback form to the participants, so they can share with us the feedback. We have email ID of all the participants with us, so we'll share it with them.
Okay, so no, it was a very, really very nice concept that in this short span of 4 days and in 15 minutes of each session, we have covered almost all the modules. So purpose is the revision of all these sessions for the BCBR next upcoming exam. So it's really, I want to congratulate Dr. Chinmay Jha sir for the same. It's his brainchild, and he has come up with this concept. I was really thinking initially that how this can be possible, but really it happened, and very well. Congratulations and thank you once again to Chinmay sir. Thank you. And yes, I want
Sir,
to
I
again
am sharing the link of YouTube. When you go into the detail, you will get all the 4 days revision for all the participants, and we will also share in the WhatsApp group. Thank you very much, everyone, for encouraging words.
Okay, and Chinmay bhai, one more thing I want to like to say.
Yes, please.
Yes, yes, that all your supporting staffs, I don't know each and everyone personally, but give the reminders, hosting all this. Really, I want to thank to all of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Okay. Bye. All the best, everyone. Mr. Samik, we can close the session. Thank you. Thank you very much.